QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Set up QuickBooks sample file. Let's get into it with Intuit. QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are on the desktop. We have our QuickBooks program here. We're going to be opening up the QuickBooks program and setting up a sample file. As we do so, QuickBooks will then set up a data file. So we will then have the QuickBooks program and then another data file. If you are working in a company file within the desktop program, you want to make sure you know where that company file is. We'll see how to do that as we go through this process. And then if you want to then use the sample file, then know where the sample file is. As we open up the sample file, QuickBooks will save the data file somewhere on the computer based on basically the last place it was saved, or if no file was saved at all in some kind of default location. We then want to go find it, and then we're going to put it right there so we know exactly where it is, and we can distinguish between the program, the data file, and any other kind of files we would have, such as backup files. Let's open up the QuickBooks program. If you work in a company file, the company file may be opened automatically. So if it opens up to a company file, you could close the company file to get to this window by going to the file drop down, and then you want to close the company. So don't close the program, just close the company. Then you'll get to a folder such as this, or a section such as this. Typically, this will have your open items. Now, if you don't know where your company file is that you're typically working in, it's a good idea to know where that file is. You can hover over these items right here. It'll give you the mapping from the C drive. So you can use that mapping then to go find your company file, just so you have an idea of where it is. It should show up in this open windows as long as you've used it fairly recently, but you don't want to really depend on this open windows thing in case the program dies or something, and you update the program file and you can't find where it is or something like that. So I would highly recommend locating the file. We'll practice doing that as we set up this company file as well. What we're going to do is run a sample file to practice our account numbers in a file external to the one we're going to be using. So I'm going to hit the drop down here, and I'd like to look at a sample file with product. So it'll be a little bit more complex because we'll be dealing with inventory then and cost of goods sold type accounts. So I'm going to just click on that item. It's going to say it will take a few minutes to download the sample file. That means it's actually going to download a data file when we do this. So it's going to take the data file out of whatever QuickBooks storage it's in, download it. It's kind of like unzipping a file, and then it's going to create a QBW file, a data file. Do you want to continue? I'm going to say yes. Now it actually gave me a location where I want to put the file, which is really nice because sometimes when you go through the process, it doesn't give you that it doesn't give you that option. It just kind of puts it somewhere that you got to go find it. So I'm going to say that we want to put this into the account number test files. That's where I'm going to put it. And so there it is. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So we're going to save that item, and it'll then save it and then open up the QuickBooks program with the sample file, which should have some data populated in it already. So it gives us this warning telling us it's going to be a sample file that we are working in, and it entered the data into the future 2025. So we're going to say, okay, that's fine. So there is our sample file. Now I would run a few tests just so we know where the sample file is. One, I might minimize the whole program here and say, okay, there it is. I put it into this folder. So if I double click on this folder, I'm going to make the icons large. Let's make them extra large. And so here we have the sample file. Notice it's just a simple QBW file. That's the standard file whenever you start a program. So it's a QBW file. When you open up the QuickBooks program, then it's going to this QBW file. You could actually double click on this file, such as you would with like a Word document, and then it would open up the program and then the file data file within it. So I'm going to close this back out. Let's go back to QuickBooks. The other way, I like to double check this, is to then close the company file, go into the File tab, and then close the company file, and then you can check the location as to where it was put. Again, here it gave us a nice mapping of where to put it, so we can actually get the option of putting it where we want it. But if it doesn't do that, sometimes when you restore a file, it doesn't tell you that. You can hover over this item and find that mapping. So you might just take a screen clipping of that item there and then locate it on your computer just to know where it is, and you can move it. If you do move the file, remember you cannot have the file open. You can have this screen open, but you can't have the actual data file open while moving the file. So now I'm going to minimize this. We have our QuickBooks program, and we have our data file here, and future presentations will use that data file to practice with the account numbers.